Most of us are visual learners, so I'm really going to try to put a lot of literally hand-drawn mappings and overall function setup so that, number one, we're actually very consistent. Again, as I'm looking through the book and through some other resources, they're not consistent. They change the letters on us or they change designations. It drove me crazy. So you're going to see this overall general setup quite often. It's going to be very, very consistent. Matter of fact, all I do is change the same graph to show different types of functions that we have in functions in general. So what you're going to see from a 10,000 foot view is that we're going to have our values of, this is our capital X and capital Y. Every time I have a capital, I'm going to put the underlying, almost like paragraph things that we do for English and grammar and stuff like that. That lets you know that that's a capital Y and that's a capital X. So this is a little x over here and that's a little x over there with our f of x. We're going to have a domain portion that encompasses all of the universal set for capital X, and then we're going to have our codomain for all the possible values for our y. Now this gets a little tricky here in a little bit, but from a 10,000 foot view, this is what I want you to understand, is that we're going to be mapping some x into a single value of y. So that's from the 10,000 foot view. The other view that you're going to have, I'm going to call a line mapping of functions, where, again, the overall blob setup, and yes, I call them blobs, the blob setup is exactly the same, but now we're getting into specific values that, frankly, are being mapped. From x, for the values 5, will give us the result of b, that's in the y and the codomain. So now we're just showing, almost like mixing and matching here of physical lines connecting to values. So that's another type of graph that you're going to see. Finally, here's our blobs. So notice the blobs and literally those items kind of being highlighted there, or at least my finger's kind of doing it. The blobs are going to be very consistent, showing you what the domain and the codomain is. But this one had a lot of things going on here, so that's why it's a little bit zoomed in here for this as well. But again, notice you're going to have individual values, x values, that are going to be eventually mapped into our y portion of the overall codomain. Now notice the codomain's broken up, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. So there's some other gotchas in here, but that's going to be the overall system or blob system that I'm going to use to demonstrate what's going on for functions.